So I'm Anna Huizen. My initiative Hashimoto Health started actually with me years searching for help for myself, for my own suffering from Hashimoto thyroiditis. And my successful story I share already from years in my practice with people with autoimmune disease. And it grew up now as an online platform with the need to share the successful stories of other people also with more people, and hopefully will reach more people and can be helped. And not without reason, we brought the subject of positive emotions because they don't just feel well, but they're good for our bodies. And I thought there is the best person to reach is Susanna. And I hope I pronounced well your last name, Halonen.
Yeah, that's very good.
Susanna Halonen is a founder of Happyologist and focused on helping people living their most fulfilling, successful lives. She's an accredited life coach and a positive psychology practitioner and published researcher. She's also an author of Screw Finding Your Passion. It's within you, let's unlock it. And an online columnist. And she has several talks, one of which you also downloadable, and you see several TED Talks and several TED events. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
So how we should start this discussion over talking about positive emotions from Jill's side as a sad story, having a chronic disease?
Yeah, well, I think it's, maybe the best way to kind of start is actually start talking about how much control we actually have over our positive emotions. Because there always has been a lot of debate and discussion about how much is it that our genetics actually influences, our mood, our emotions and things like that, and how much of it is actually in our own hands. And according to research, it's genetics don't really have as much control as we think. They say on average, it might predict 50% of your happiness in an average population, and the rest is entirely up to you. So there's actually quite a lot more in your hands than you think. And I think that's important for us all to kind of acknowledge, because it's kind of the first step for us to opening the door into making decisions and taking action into our life so we can experience more positive emotions.
Yeah, great point, because I think if you look also on the research of Hashimoto thyroiditis, you see that even the studies that are shown, the twin studies, they see. So it is not just genetics. Of course, there is a genetic component, but it is not just genetics, and we can do a lot.
Yes, exactly. I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. How the positive emotions can influence our body?
Yeah, I mean, they can influence our bodies in so many powerful ways. And again, it's kind of us, realizing that our mind is connected to our body is connected to our mind. It's all one, basically. It's all influencing each other. And positive emotions really have the power to actually affect our body in multiple positive ways. First off, which is actually boosting your immune system, because when you're naturally more positive, your body tends to kind of recreate cells and nurture and heal and do all of that regeneration in a more faster pace, which of course then makes you more stronger and more resilient against any diseases or any inflammation or things like that. Positive emotions also helps you to lower your stress, because again, you're more resilient against challenges and things like that. You're less likely to be affected by problems that come to you because you're kind of in a much more positive state of mind, and then you see challenges almost as an opportunity to grow and then to challenge yourself, rather than something that kind of makes you panic or makes you freeze or hold you back. And again, positive emotions enables all of this because it prevents you from going into states of panic or anxiety or things like that can actually prevent you from overcoming that challenge. And also positive emotions actually makes it much more likely for you to engage in health promoting behaviors as well. So when you are experiencing more positive emotions, you're much more likely to exercise, which again creates more positive emotions. You're more likely to eat nutritiously, you're more likely to get good quality sleep. And equally, the more of you do those things, again, the more positive emotions you have. So it's kind of, you can create this positivity spiral in a way, by bringing more positive emotions into your life, and, you know, by taking good care of yourself. Because when you do that, then it starts to become kind of something automatic in your life, rather than you having to consciously go after it.
Yeah, yeah. And you are saying about positive emotions. Are the emotions that are more influential? Because I've came towards a study that shows that awe is one of the strongest positive emotions related to immunity.
Yes, awe is a brilliant one, and I think that's quite tied to as well to curiosity in a way, and I think it's almost like connecting to your inner child, I like to call it as well, because, you know,
Wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, because the way kind of children see life when they're growing up, they're always in awe and they're always amazed with things, and they're always curious at, you know, oh, that's something new. What does that do? Or, oh, what is that? And how do I work this? So it's like they experience life in like almost a constant state of awe up to a certain age. And it's almost when we learn to bring a little bit more of that awe into our lives, then that helps us to, again, get more of that childlike joy out as well. And yeah, and there's so many other positive emotions as well, like, you know, joy, laughter, delight, even contentment. So also peace in a way, because sometimes that's also something that helps you to kind of connect to your soul and to your being, and helps you to nurture it. So it's, so definitely there's not like you have to have this one positive emotion. You can use all of them and bring all of them into your life. But awe is definitely a brilliant one to start with. Absolutely.
And do you have any practical suggestions how people can do that?
Yes. I mean, I think the best way to think about how you can bring more positive emotions into your life is actually think about what is it in your life that right now gives you positive emotions. So the super basic question, but sometimes we don't take the time to stop and think and reflect and think, okay, so when was the last time, you know, I laughed out loud? Or when was the last time I felt at peace? Or when was the last time I was in awe of something? And then once you kind of reconnect with those moments, then you're like, okay, so maybe I felt it yesterday when I was, I don't know, in the park and I saw a new flower or something. And I was like, wow, that's unique and that's different, and different colors in there. And then you can think, okay, so how can I recreate this scenario more so I can bring more of it into my life? And it's like, okay, do I want to go out into nature more? Or do I want to, I don't know, watch nature programs on TV if it's cold outside and you don't feel like going out? You know, it's just about kind of connecting with all those things that basically give you positive emotions. And the reality is, because the better you know yourself and what gives you positive emotions, the easier it is for you to then start making changes in your life that basically enables you to bring more of these different activities in.
Yeah, I understand. And you are talking about all related to curiosity and childlike state, but is it also not that in some way it helps our strengthen our social ties? Because I think this was my interpretation, at least, of the research on the immunity and all, was that I think we very often isolate ourselves when we're in chronic we have chronic disease. And the state of curiosity and just being on the floor might be very helpful to strengthen our social ties. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought social connections into the picture, because they are so critical. And absolutely, because we're all different and unique, we kind of fuel each other's awe in a way and bring it out, because we have all these unique perspectives and unique beliefs and, you know, unique stories. And when we are sharing that and discussing things, and even just, you know, sharing how our day went, or, you know, what's, you know, the challenge that you have right now, or the best thing that's happened to you in the last week, even just discussing those things and sharing them with someone definitely helps bring that up as well. And social connections, I mean, they're another thing that really fuel your positivity overall, because naturally as humans we are social creatures, so we don't only need each other to survive but also to thrive. So it's really important we kind of invest in our social connections and make sure that we are spending enough time, not just online, which is great, but also face to face, because there's a whole kind of energy exchange that happens when you're actually, you know, in the same room with someone as well.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that it might be useful to bring something what we discussed with you in our previous meeting, that some people, when you say positive psychology or positive emotions, get it as if, but and sort of they're becoming defensive even, because I can understand when you are you have chronic disease, there is no fun there, and to tell you just think positively. So just to bring the point, it's not just thinking positively, or but also to seeing the things as they are.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's, yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up as well, because being positive and thinking positively and like engaging with more positive emotions in your life doesn't mean that you deny all the negativity or the stress or the exhaustion or all the bad things that you feel, or you don't try and suppress them or hide them or ignore them, because then that creates a whole other toxic environment in you, because you're trying to kind of hide them when in fact then they'll end up blowing up later. So it is important to kind of acknowledge them and realize them and say, okay, I know this is what I'm feeling right now and this is really frustrating, but right now I'm going to try and think, okay, so what can I do to be more positive? Or can I go out even just for a walk in fresh air, and even not trying to force positivity in, but almost kind of just being at peace with where you are and also letting it come in as well. Because I think the more we try and then start to beat ourselves up about it or get frustrated or angry about not being in that positive state, the more difficult it becomes. And also then the less kind of natural and organic it becomes.
Yeah.
Because in the end, kind of happiness, positivity, fulfillment, they are kind of a byproduct of our actions, of how we think, of how we see life. So it's not like we click our fingers, say, okay, I'm positive now and I'm going to be happy now. It's kind of, it's almost a mindset change that happens over time, but it doesn't mean that you never experience negativity or bad emotions or anything like that, because that's a part of human life. So it's, you kind of need those as well in order to have that balance in your life. But like you said, it's about acknowledging them, not letting them kind of take too much control, not getting angry or frustrated at them either, and then just kind of making peace with them, saying, okay, I know I'm feeling this, and even just acknowledging that the negative stuff that you're feeling already makes it less powerful, because you're not saying I am this, you say I am feeling this. So you realize you are not that feeling, it's just something that you're experiencing right now. And then that helps you to basically think, okay, so I'm making peace with it, and now, what can I do to kind of welcome more of that positivity in again in a natural way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and having in mind that we have anyway a negative biased brain.
Exactly.
I think that positivity can be very helpful, just to remind ourselves that if it's a threat, it is very natural human thing that would go in this negative loop of searching for more confirmation of the negativity.
Yes.
And remind of looking around for the things that are for us nice or feeling good.
Exactly.
Great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how, is that? Shall we move to the to the growth mindset? Because I think that we're talking about positivity, positive emotions, and having a negative biased brain.
Yeah.
I think they're the growth mindset. I love it. I love this concept.
Yeah. I mean, growth mindset. So I guess it was founded originally by Carol Dweck, and when I read her book, I was just like blown away. I think it was one of these life-changing books for me. I think the book is just called Mindset, basically. And because I basically realized that I had really been in this fixed mindset quite a lot, especially like going through, the normal education and system where kind of that is what is nurtured. And because, well, just to explain as well, obviously, to everyone listening, so like a fixed mindset is basically when you believe that your intelligence is kind of static, and you just kind of want to look smart, and because of that you try and avoid challenges, and you're maybe a little bit more threatened by obstacles, and you kind of see effort as something that people have to put in only if they're not good enough. You're also more kind of sensitive to feedback, because you might think, oh, well, you know, I'm doing fine, I don't need this feedback. And the success of others can also threaten you. And again, I can totally admit I was in this fixed mindset state, I think, for a long time. And, you know, I was always obsessed with getting, you know, the best marks at school, and, you know, being highest on an honor roll or whatever. God knows why now. And then when I read about this growth mindset, which is this whole idea that intelligence can be developed and pretty much all your abilities and traits can be developed, and I was like, okay, that's a really interesting point. And as I kind of dived deeper into it and started reading about what it actually means and how to use it, it kind of really connected with my love of learning. And I realized that, wow, okay, when I understand that I can develop and that I can grow and still challenge myself, you know, it's much more exciting to keep on learning. So it really connected me to that, and it made me a lot braver when it came to embracing challenges. Setbacks became kind of learning processes rather than something that, you know, would crush me down. Again, someone with a growth mindset, then they see effort as also the path to mastery, rather than as something that you do just because, you know, you're not good enough. But no, actually, the more effort you put in, the more masterful you become at whatever you're doing. And you also actually start to listen to the feedback people have and also learn from it. And last but not least, when you look at other people's successes, you don't feel threatened, you feel inspired. You know, you're like, okay, what are they doing that's amazing? Oh, I really like that. And oh, look at these best practices that they're sharing. And you kind of get energized with them, and kind of can almost feel that sense of success and celebrate with them as well. And again, like when it comes to all the research that Dweck and I think other psychologists have now done as well, people with a growth mindset are much more likely to succeed in the end, because they are so better at kind of loving this learning, being able to embrace challenges, and really taking feedback, and all of the things that I mentioned there. And I think it's a really, really powerful thing to have.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, I haven't looked, and I don't know if there is a research, but I always use this growth mindset in the sense of also that we can learn of the experiences we have, or the not so nice or positive experience that, or the life offers us sometimes the things that we didn't expect to have. So, and I refer to growth mindset in this sense also. I don't know if I'm correct using this, but I always think that this is also an opportunity to grow. You can look at the things that are on our path and see, okay, what I can learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is a massive, massive part of growth mindset. So you're absolutely spot on. And I think it's such a brilliant way of facing challenges and setbacks as well, because then you don't see them as failure. I mean, I don't even really believe in the word failure anyways, because I just believe everything is a learning process. Like we live, you know, all our lives kind of learning, basically. We're never a finished product. And I think that's what's the best thing about life. And, you know, when you have a setback, or when things don't go like you want them to go, or, you know, they go a little bit unexpected, or you don't get the result you want, I think it is important to see it as some kind of learning experience, and just look at it and say, okay, so it didn't go as planned. So you can start by saying, okay, well, if everything didn't go as planned, did something go as planned? You know, what did go right in this situation? And then, okay, what did I learn from this situation? You know, how did I grow from this situation? How am I maybe a better person or a bigger person because of the situation? Because all of these setbacks usually teach us quite a lot of lessons. Maybe not right in the moment when we're in it, because we need to kind of distance ourselves a little bit, calm down, and you know, just think about it. And then maybe with depending on the challenge, maybe, you know, a couple days or a week or even a month, and then you can look back on it and be like, oh, now I get it. That's what it taught me. That's what I learned. And oh yeah, it actually reminded me of, who I am and what's important to me. And so I think, yeah, absolutely approaching kind of everything with this growth mindset and always being open to asking what you're learning from that situation. I think that is what really makes it powerful.
Yeah. And, we Hashimoto's are very often suffering from low self-esteem or being very harsh on ourselves. And I love to refer to the growth mindset in this sense, because we are not who we believe we are.
Yeah.
So you can just say, okay, this is who the social environment projects on me, who I believed a long time that I am. But I can grow and I can choose who I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with that, because I think that is such an important point to make, because the more we kind of then again, if we start criticizing ourselves or attacking ourselves and saying, well, I don't have good self-esteem and I wish I should have better. And it's like, okay, no, this is where I am right now. But like you said, I have the opportunity to grow. I have the opportunity to learn. There are times in the past I have succeeded and I have done things well. So I'm going to do it again. So, and I think it's just reconnecting with that and reminding yourself of that, that really helps you to move forward as well. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. How people can use this growth life, something small that they can do on a daily basis that can be helpful. Do you have a tip?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to really use this growth mindset is really whenever you are kind of faced with a challenge, something that really scares you or makes you a little bit nervous, or you're a little bit hesitant about whether to take it or do it, or you're not sure if you're able to cope with it. Just see it as a learning opportunity. Don't think that, oh, I have to ace this and succeed in it and do everything perfectly. Just look at it and say, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to grow and to learn. And I'm just going to take it step by step, take tiny little steps. And that is what's going to help me to learn and to grow and also to overcome this challenge. And then you actually realize that next time you're faced with another challenge, then it is even easier and you feel even more confident, because again, the more you practice it, the more it becomes a habit, and then the easier it is for it to just happen naturally and organically.
Mm-hmm. Because there was some research showing that you needed 21 days repeating that something would develop as a habit. Do you have the same experience? What's the positive psychology tools?
Yeah. I mean, most of the time it is 21 days, especially if it's repeated daily and, in the same context. I mean, some habits you can learn quicker, some take a little bit longer, but you kind of know it's a habit when you stop thinking about it. So when you're doing it on autopilot, if you're still kind of thinking about it, then it's not a habit and you're like, okay, well, I still need to keep consciously doing it. And then when you kind of catch yourself one day doing it without even thinking, that's when it started to turn into a habit. And yeah, 21 days is kind of the average that they say it takes.
Yeah. And do you have an experience working with people who big challenges as some health issues, and how you deal in your counseling or coaching with them? What would be your, like, if you have a sort of structure, if you can make a generalization, of course everyone is unique, but if you can in some way give some generalization, how people can, from where to start, where to go, and what would be the advice as a daily routine, what they can follow?
Well, I think the first exercise I give pretty much 99% of all my coaching clients and a lot of the people who come to my workshops as well is actually practicing gratitude, because gratitude is kind of the number one habit when it comes to turning positivity into a habit, and it's also connected to your optimism, your creativity, again, your well-being and everything that comes with it. And it's a super simple practice, and it's called basically a gratitude journal. And the rule, again, is super simple. It's just for every day, at the end of the day, you finish the day by writing down 3 things that you were grateful for in that day. Now, it has to be really specific to that day. So you can't just say, well, I'm grateful for my family, because that's too vague and that's too broad, and then you don't really connect with your day in that sense. So, but you can say, I'm really grateful for the FaceTime call I had with my mom. We had a good chat, we had a good laugh, and it was really nice to connect with her, you know, since she lives like 1,000 miles away. So in that way, it's again very specific to that day. And once you do that at the end of every day for 21 days, because 21 days is that magic number that will start to turn it into a habit, then you start to actually look for things to be grateful for. So then throughout your day, you're like, oh, okay, oh, maybe I'll add this to my gratitude list later, and oh, maybe I'll add this. And then, so your perspective completely starts to shift, because you start to look at, you know, what's going right and what there is to appreciate and what there is to be thankful for, rather than what's going wrong or what the problems are. Now, again, it doesn't mean you ignore the problems or the challenges, but it does mean you kind of shift your focus into the positive light. Because also when you have kind of this perspective of gratitude, you tend to also spot more opportunities, and you tend to tap more into your creativity as well. Yeah. And it's okay for like these things on your list to really vary every day. Like some days it might be really difficult to get, you know, big things, and it might just be I really enjoyed my morning cup of coffee because I was feeling a little bit tired, and it really warmed me up and helped me wake up and helped me get started on the day. And then other days, you know, it might be, I don't know, you had a meeting with a client and you sold a new project or something like that, and you're really proud of yourself and your team for doing that. So it can be all kinds of different things, small or big, at work, in your life, in your body, anything basically, as long as it is specific to that day. And I always encourage people to also use pen and paper to do that exercise, because using pen and paper activates more of the learning centers in your brain, so you're much more creative. So as a result, it's easier to then generate the ideas and the things that you have to be grateful for. But also by writing them down, you connect with them in a deeper sense. Whenever we write something down physically, you know, going old school, it kind of gives us more of a sense of achievement and accomplishment as well, because you're like, oh, I wrote that down, and oh yeah, that is definitely what I'm grateful for. And you start to really appreciate yourself and your day and your life in a bigger picture as well. So I think gratitude is definitely the first kind of habit to introduce in, if you want to really bring this positive perspective in, because it brings it in such a natural way as well.
Yeah. And what would be the next?
Then I think I would really encourage you to think about your sense of purpose. Now, this can be quite a big question for a lot of people, because when people think purpose, they're like, oh my God, purpose, like, you know, what's my role on the planet, and they panic. And it's like, no, take a step back and just say, you know, why is it that, you know, what is it that helps you get out of bed in the morning? You know, why is it that you do the work that you do? Why is it that you do action X, Y, and Z? So it's just almost connecting to your life and the different aspects of it in a meaningful way, because everything that we do does have some kind of purpose behind it, but maybe we've become kind of immune to it, or we've forgotten it because it's become so automatic. And sometimes we need to like stop and reflect and think, wait, hold on a minute, why is it that I actually do this? Because once we again get this sense of purpose, we get a much more meaningful connection to our life. And then you can go bigger as well and think about, okay, well, what is the kind of legacy that I do want to leave on this planet? You know, what is it that I want to be remembered for? You know, what is the bigger why? What's the positive impact one I want to have? But I always encourage people to start with just creating those meaningful connections to their life as it is now, and just acknowledging that, because that will also naturally start to shine light on kind of this bigger why and this long-term legacy that you might want to basically create in the long term.
So it's sort of that they make a certain relation with their own values and how they can bring these values in their and what they're going to undertake. Did I understand you well?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, because values is often very connected to your purpose and your why. So definitely connecting with those values, which are kind of the principles you live your life by, really helps you connect with your bigger sense of purpose as well. So yeah, absolutely, that's spot on.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that this is something that people can do on their own, or you think that guidance is necessary?
I think they can definitely start the process on their own. I think also always, I think self-reflection is nice. Personally, I love to journal anyways and write, but I mean, I'm a writer, so maybe there's a little bit of bias there. But I do also give a lot of my clients journaling and writing exercises, and they seem to kind of help that seems to help their kind of ideas come through, because it's almost like we have a lot of kind of superficial noise in our head. So we almost need to get that out of the way. And if we get it kind of down on paper and out, that's when we start to tap into what's actually underneath, you know, all the meaningful stuff and all the real stuff that maybe we don't take daily notice of, and maybe we should. And I think if you start that process yourself, you can kind of get one step ahead. But then, of course, you know, you can also work, you know, with coaches, with, you know, therapists, counselors, or even, you know, that you can work with your friends if you want to do it together, someone who you know well, someone who you trust, someone who you have a good relationship with you, and as long as you know that it's a very open, safe environment and there's no judgment and everyone's just, you know, looking out for each other, then I think you can also start doing that with a friend, and then you can kind of help each other figure out, you know, your values, your beliefs, that why that drives you, because sometimes brainstorming and talking about it also helps it kind of come out.
Mm-hmm. And when you talked about when people start journaling that they're going to the things are crystallizing, are you referring that people get to their intuitive state?
I mean, I think it takes a little bit of time with the journaling, and it depends also what kind of focus you have, because there's all kinds of different writing exercises you do. Like, for example, there's one that I work with my clients, which is for 4 days in a row, 20 minutes every day at the same time every day, they are to write about their best possible self. And again, it's another very powerful positive psychology intervention. And so, and they every day they pick like a specific time point. So they say, you know, maybe the first day they're writing about my best possible self in 1 year time, and then the next day might be 2 years time, the next might be 5, the next might be 10. And all they're really asked to do is to write about what would like ideal life look like in 1 year's time if they were their best possible self. And initially, usually the first couple of days, it's quite tricky and it's quite sticky and hard, and people are like, this is ridiculous, I have no idea what I'm writing. But when you push through it and you stick through it, and I think that's why you do it for 4 days, then you start to actually connect to things and you start to get the subconscious out, especially because the rule is, again, doing it with pen and paper, you can't stop writing for the 20 minutes. So even if you don't know what to write, you actually physically write, I don't know what to write, this exercise is silly, I have no idea what to write, and you just keep writing that, even if you write that for the first day for 20 minutes. But then the next day when you sit down and start writing, you're kind of almost over a little hurdle already, because you're like, okay, well, I kind of got all that out of the way, and now I can kind of dive a little bit deeper. And then you start to explore it, and you're like, well, maybe you start writing about your values and how you want to make sure that in 2 years time, you know, you I don't know, you do work that's really aligned with your values, or you work with an organization that's really aligned with your values, you know, you're clear about your why and things like that. And I think then over time it becomes clearer. And I think that's what I mean as well about life, and as humans being forever dynamic and forever learning. It's good for us to kind of reflect on these and always check up on these, because obviously then maybe during the journey when our life situation changes or we're in different life phases, maybe we have to adapt it a little bit. But as long as we kind of have this awareness of it, if we're always thinking back on it, then we can always make sure that we're kind of one step ahead, and that we are doing things that are meaningful to us, and that we are having a, you know, perspective of gratitude, and we are doing things that really brings us awe and helps us to connect with people. I think that's the main thing to really remember.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the gratitude and the gratitude journaling, and I'm also a very big fan of it, and I've seen the results of that. But I've also experienced with clients that they have resistance, and Hashimoto's very often have traumatic the experiences in early childhood. And it is hitting, it is not that people don't want to do it, but they just say that how you can be, on what to be grateful for, and how you can be grateful on such things, how you deal with such resistance.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, again, that's completely kind of normal because they have been almost like programmed in that way. So they kind of have to reprogram their brain basically into a whole new way. And literally with clients that I have, with coaching clients that I have who have that kind of resistance, I just ask them to keep with it. And just say, even if one day you can't get 3, at least put one thing down. And, you know, it might start with the simplest things like, oh, the sun was shining today, which felt nice on my skin. And that's okay. Like, just start with the tiny baby steps. And something else that some of my clients have actually kind of brought in themselves, they're like, well, actually, I started doing it with my partner. And, you know, they would share the 3 things or 2 things with their partner, and the partner would share 2 things with them. So that almost made it into, well, it also made it into a bonding thing with the partner, but also kind of made it into a connectivity thing and kind of helped create even more gratitude into the picture. And, you know, they can get creative as well. Like if they really can't stick with it, like every day for 7 days, fine. Then just say, okay, well, if I can't do like 3 every day, I'm just going to start with doing 1 every day. And then maybe the next week, okay, I'm going to start with doing 2 things I'm grateful for every day. And then just build it up step by step. Because I think as long as you kind of start practicing a little bit more, and as you start to then approach your day, because then you wake up in the morning and you say, well, I know in the end of the day I have to write down 2 things I'm grateful for, so I'm kind of going to be maybe a little bit more in the lookout for them as well. And I think that also helps, kind of that almost that accountability that, well, I need to write these down later, so I'm going to find them. Yeah, so I think just kind of making it fun and making it a game as well, that helps.
Yeah, I agree absolutely with you. The small things, and start with very small things are looking around, and they are around us anyway. Yeah. From Seligman, do you think that in some way it might be useful to present it shortly and say how this can help people to go to a happy life?
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So Martin Seligman, he's kind of one of the founding fathers of positive psychology, with Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, which is like the most impossible name. And basically Seligman came up with this brilliant model called PERMA, and each letter basically stands for something. And these 5 elements that he talks about, each of them basically helps you to live a meaningful, fulfilling life. So the P basically stands for positive emotions. So it's all about feeling good. So what we talked about, bringing more awe, delight, savoring, all of these things into your life. The E stands for engagement, which is actually all about finding flow. And flow is this concept that this other psychology I mentioned, Csikszentmihalyi, kind of came up with, which means that when you are kind of faced with challenges, or, well, whatever activity that you do, you should always aspire to kind of find flow in it. And you find flow when you have kind of the right amount of challenge and then also the right amount of ability. And then you kind of meet there in the middle, so that you have enough challenge that you are growing and you're pushing yourself, but not so much that you can't handle it and you panic, but just the right that you are growing and pushing a little bit, and you also have enough ability to deal with the challenge. Because when you have that, that's when you basically find flow in the different activities you do, and that basically helps you to engage with everything that you do. So that's the E. And then there's the R, which is all about relationships, which is of course all about authentic connection. So, you know, we talked about how, again, awe is something that comes from building these positive connections. And again, the more kind of authentic and real they are, the more meaningful you can make them, the better. And again, I think face-to-face interaction is critical. I mean, I love the online world. I love social media. I think it's brilliant because it helps us do things like this, and it helps us to, you know, spread our message and connect with other people around the world. But we need to also remember to do the face-to-face interaction, because it shouldn't be seen as online world shouldn't be seen as a replacement, but almost something to just add on, like an extra bonus, basically. So I think it's really important to make sure that you are making time for those face-to-face interactions as well. And then the M in PERMA is basically meaning. So we started talking a little bit about that as well. So making sure that you have a purposeful experience basically throughout your life, again connecting to your life in meaningful ways, understanding the why behind what you do, understanding kind of the bigger picture, and actually gratitude is something that can connect you to your sense of meaning as well. And then the last one, the A from PERMA, is basically called achievement, which is all about having a sense of accomplishment. So you feel like, you know, you are progressing, you are growing, you are achieving things, you know, you are doing things that you want to be doing, and you're basically, you know, succeeding in life, in reaching the things that you want to reach. And I think kind of together, those 5 elements really make a really nice summary of what constitutes of a fulfilling life. So yeah, I mean, I think definitely kind of that's an interesting model that if you want to kind of dive deeper into it, or even, you know, read his book, well, he's got multiple books out now, but I mean, they're really nice kind of introductions to the topic, and he really dives deeper into them, and it is a really kind of nice summary of what a fulfilling life consists of.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking how to close it up in such way that people feel understood, and in the same way energized, and get the positivity of this discussion and hopefully bring into their life. Do you have something that's just crossed my mind? Can we think of something that we can just lead people and as an exercise and let them experience, and to close in this way? And it's just, can we improvise something?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can. Yeah, I think so. And I kind of want to, I think maybe the nice exercise would kind of finish on would actually be combining a little bit of gratitude and meaningful into one.
Okay.
And again, and it's obviously it's another positive psychology exercise that I've done a lot with my clients, which is quite powerful. And it's just kind of taking a moment to kind of reflect on your past week. So let's say, you know, the past 7 days that have gone, you know, think about kind of what's been going on, what's been happening, just kind of reflecting on everything, the ups, the downs, you know, the good bits, the bad bits. And then kind of try and think of one point in that week. And again, it can be in your life, in your career, relationships, doesn't matter. Think of one point that basically you think is the most meaningful experience that you had in the last 7 days. And when I mean like, what is the most meaningful experience you had? Again, there's kind of no rules to it, but obviously it needs to be something that brought you some kind of sense of fulfillment and brought you some kind of sense of gratitude, and be like, wow, this was, you know, this is incredible. This was a lovely experience, and, you know, I feel good about it, and yeah, I'm going to carry this with me now. So that's kind of what I mean with a meaningful experience. And, you know, I can start by maybe sharing my meaningful experience to start to maybe get the creativity juices flowing. Yeah. And well, on Saturday, I basically had a wonderful training session. So I have a horse. I'm a huge horse lover, and we train and compete and everything. But I have this young horse, and he's been quite wild and crazy, and he's 7 now, so he's starting to mature a little bit. And I have a trainer, and he's brilliant. And just on Saturday, we just had this incredible moment when like everything was right, and like we were in perfect harmony, and like he was calm, he was relaxed, he was supple, he understood me, I understood him, and I was like, wow, this is what perfect harmony feels like. And it's, yeah, and obviously horses is something that brings me a lot of positive emotions, a lot of meaning, and also the growth and the challenge that comes with training them. But that was definitely I think the most meaningful experience I had in the last week. It was just that moment, because it also kind of reminded me of how far we've come as well, and all the obstacles we've overcome. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm still thinking about my own week.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking about that. I don't know if you're open for that, because I assume that questions may come.
Yeah.
And shall we say that if people have more questions, or that we come together in another time and try to answer them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, because I'm sure there'll always be questions and that'll be nice, definitely.
That everyone would read from own story and own struggles and see how concrete we can answer the questions of the audience.
Yes,
And thank you
absolutely.
for your time and your energy.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It was very nice to have you. Thank you, Susanna, and a
Thank
lot of
you.
success with your, also with your work. I'm curious to see what is the new thing you're going to do. Do you want to say something, or still in development?
It's a little bit in development. I mean, well, there's a few projects. I'm writing my second book at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I'm also developing some new online courses. Kind of more than that, I'm not quite ready to share yet.
Okay.
But obviously, it is all about, how to be happier and more fulfilled. And I'm really going big on kind of taking it a step further than just thinking happiness is just smiles, but really bringing that fulfilling type of happiness in. And all of it is really tied to the ability also to trust yourself. So a lot of it is about basically creating a better connection with yourself.
No, wonderful topic, I think, to have for another discussion. I think that
Yes.
the trust is a big issue for Hashimoto's, and the lack of trust of others. And yeah, so it might be. Do you want to say something about it? Do you have something that's very shortly you can present? How you deal with the trust issues?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, there's a lot to say, but I guess just to,
In short.
yeah, in short, I mean, well, to me, the foundation to kind of living a happy, fulfilling is the ability to trust yourself. Because when you kind of trust yourself, and I think, and I use the word trust specifically and not just believe in yourself, because it's almost about a step further than that. Because yeah, you believe in yourself, you believe in your strengths, you believe in what you're capable of, but then you also trust that whatever it is that you're doing and whatever path that you're doing, is right. So a lot of it, I think, is also kind of stopping to reflect and to listen to your intuition and your gut, because that always has the answers, and we kind of rarely take the time to do that. And I think the more we can work on kind of that relationship with ourselves and our trust, the more we can also improve the relationships with the people around us, and also the relationship with the world. And basically, well, the book that I'm writing, I'm basically sharing kind of 10 lessons that helps you to develop more trust for yourself, and then also how to turn those things into habits as well. So yeah, no, it's yeah. But I'm definitely up for having another webinar and sharing more.
When we can expect your book?
It won't be coming out till later next year. So I'm just working with the publisher now, basically, to get it into the perfect state.
Yeah. Now, a lot of success, and we'll talk to each other soon.
Perfect.
I'll let you know, and we can plan somewhere next webinar. It's a nice topic to bring in. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Susanna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye.